Welcome to the show. My name is Charlton with Big C. This is Charlton and Big C Sports. Coming to you worldwide on the Big C Sports Network, on the #1 network in the United States of America. And Big C Sports has been voted the #1 sports show in the universe, according to Big C. And them good old boys down south, I want to say bienvenidos to our friends in Latin America, also across the pond in London, England, as well as Paris, France, of course. You good old boys in Canada, you know we love you in Africa, the Big C tribe. But there's no one we love more than them good old boys down south, in the land of the free and the home of the brave, on a beautiful April the 3rd, 2019, Grando Deportes, Big C. How's it going for you good old boys down south?
Charlton, it is absolutely a gorgeous day. It's a momentous day also. You know, you think about, people have forgotten so much about this, how far we've come, but how far we have not come, Charlton. Today marks the 51st anniversary of the final speech of the late Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.
Yes.
On this night, Charlton, 51 years ago, in Memphis, where he gave the speech, I've been to the mountaintop, Charlton.
Yeah.
And so many of us are still trying to get to the mountaintop, Charlton, to achieve the things that he strided for African Americans to have in this country, Charlton, and lost his life in doing that by bringing unity to this country, something we have so little of today with the divisiveness we have in politics.
Yeah. I tell you what, Big C, it's a process. Everything is a process. Just like spring, a lot of the waters come in the wintertime. In spring, everything blooms. And I think Dr. King, his words are always in spring. Today's show is sponsored by your Northern California Cadillac dealers, home of the all-new Cadillac Escalade, the standard of the world. When you go by and test drive yours, tell them Charlton and Big C sent you, as well as a host of Cadillac cars. Today is a wonderful day. It's absolutely beautiful here in California. I know we've had different weather conditions all over the world, and I just appreciate the fact that we can do something almost year-round. And when we think about having the chance to do what Dr. King talked about, Big C, everybody in my lifetime, they always pay homage to people who taught them something, the people that came before them. And one of the things that I'm really impressed by, I know we talked about Nipsey Russell, the gentleman who was slain in Southern California, and how a lot of people have reached out and given their thoughts and condolences and their prayers to his family, how he lived, you know, a life that was obviously not always good. Nobody's perfect, but he atoned for a lot of the things that he did growing up. And there's nobody perfect in this world. But what I'm really touched by is the number of athletes. When people say sports and politics and entertainment are separate, they're not separate. Give me your thoughts on why so many athletes have a great affiliation and kind words to say about his passing and his life. Big C, your thoughts.
Well, Charlton, when you think of the affiliation of athletes and entertainment moguls that were affiliated with the late Nipsey Hussle,
yeah,
the rapper, Charlton, you think about Magic Johnson,
yeah,
Denzel Washington, Russell Westbrook, Charlton, Baron Davis, Kawhi Leonard, you know, and the list goes on and on.
Yeah.
But the reason why, Charlton, is because he had the same vision that they had.
Yeah.
Helping the impoverished, Charlton. But when you think about hearing about rappers and you think about the lyrics that they're spewing nowadays, Charlton,
yeah,
on their work, that you don't see the other side of them, Charlton.
Yeah.
Nipsey Hussle had a vision that he was obligated, Charlton, to reach back into a community that he had come from. He saw the downtroddenness that was in the community because he was a part of it, Charlton,
yeah,
on both sides.
Yeah.
But he also understood, Charlton, that he needed to go back in this community and invest.
Yeah.
You know, he had foundations like Puma. You think about the sporting good companies, Charlton,
yeah,
that believed in him, helped invest into the community, Charlton, as far as recreational activities and centers for the youth,
yeah,
that were in the community, Charlton, as well as learning centers.
Yes.
You know, he didn't see going in just making money off of his music, Charlton. What he made off of his music, he was giving back.
Yeah.
And these athletes and entertainers, Charlton, that saw what he was doing, and he was joining forces with them also, Charlton, in going back and helping in an impoverished area, Charlton. You have to give people opportunity to get out of something, Charlton.
Oh, yeah.
And that comes through financial investment, something that a lot of banks are skittish about doing.
Yeah.
And, people are always calling on athletes. Why don't the athletes go back and create this? Athletes don't have the wealth of a bank, Charlton.
Oh, no.
But what they do in a positive light, Charlton, not only do they invest, but they show themselves.
Yeah.
They show people that they care. Not just one day, not just Christmas or Thanksgiving, when people are always thinking that they're going to get a present or a meal, Charlton.
Yeah.
But being there every day. And that's what the late Nipsey Hussle did. And that's why so many athletes and entertainers were affiliated with him. They knew how he started out, Charlton, as part of the Crips. But anybody can turn a page in their life, Charlton, and become a different individual.
Yeah.
Look at the president. He still got half a page turned.
Yeah.
But when you look at what he done, Charlton, in bringing all these people together for the same mission of understanding and helping youth and underprivileged minority children, Charlton.
Yeah.
This is why athletics and entertainment go synonymous with each other, Charlton. And not just the African Americans do it, Charlton. All races of entertainers and athletes do this, Charlton.
Yeah.
It's just that when we have somebody in the African American community, Charlton, who loses their life tragedy at the hands of another African American, Charlton, we don't get the protest in the streets just like you had in Sacramento the past couple of weeks ago, Charlton, because a law enforcement officer shot somebody down who was committing a crime.
Clark, yeah.
Here was a man trying to stop crime in central Los Angeles, Charlton.
Yeah.
Trying to show people that there's a way out and there's an alternative.
Yep.
And yet his life was brought to a tragic end for bringing a positive message to that community because so many don't want to see that, Charlton.
I think back to Nipsey Hussle and how I go back to the time that most Americans saw South Central LA, Compton, etc., is when we had the watch riots back in the 60s. And recently, since then, when we had the O.J. Simpson, it was the Rodney King trial, actually, when the officers beat Rodney King, and then they denied that it happened, but it was on videotape, just like Bob Kraft stuff is on videotape, just like Donald Trump is heard on videotape about where he likes to grab women. And when people saw the South Central Los Angeles district, now, when a few people burned down that city, the whole black community was blamed for it, which is not fair. And when I look at what Nipsey Hussle did, he didn't open up shops out in Beverly Hills, as far as I know. He wasn't up
Brentwood or any of those places.
Brentwood, yeah,
Simi Valley,
Santa Barbara, those towns. He went where banks have I won't say a hard time. They just choose not to lend to a lot of black business owners. You can't have a business unless you get a loan from a bank. Everybody knows that. And we see it all over California, where even in the new gold rush, the marijuana trade, that banks are giving loans. Somebody's putting the money up for these organizations, Big C, and for the most part, some studies that came out, about 95% of the people who get a cannabis license, they're Caucasian. They're white. Now that it's been legalized in some aspects of it, they're giving the loans to white people for an industry that people hate. There are African Americans that could not get a loan for a grocery store that had fresh fruits and vegetables in the inner cities. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, they couldn't get a loan for anything to aid the community. They wanted people to invest money outside the community. They did not want African Americans investing internally.
Yeah.
They wanted to take all the financial means out of that, Charlton, so there was never a support base.
Yeah.
You could find liquor stores, Charlton. You could find convenience stores.
Yep.
But you could not find grocery stores. Name brand grocery stores, Charlton, refused to go in the inner city areas and allow those patrons in those places to have proper nutrition, Charlton.
Yeah.
So you had problems of obesity because you did not have the nutritional values that kids needed. So they were, stuck on sugars and starches all the time.
Yeah.
And instead of having fresh vegetables and fruit, Charlton, they had canned goods that they ate, full of sodium and sugar. So when you look at society depriving inner city, not just in Los Angeles, Charlton, in any major metropolitan area, whenever there's been violence, Charlton, in these cities, and infrastructure deterioration, Charlton, especially like when you talk about the Watts wives, the Rodney King riots, Charlton.
Yeah.
Police cordoned off and kept the minorities in. They said, you can burn down your own, but we're not going to allow you to come out where the white people live and burn down those areas.
Yeah.
And so when they did do that, Charlton, through frustration, because the world saw what happened on television, and those police officers were exonerated. That's the difference between good police officers and bad police officers.
Yeah.
Is that they force you that what you saw wasn't real. And they proved that in a court of law because they had a jury that said that they wouldn't have beat that man if he didn't warrant that.
Right.
But if it had been a dog, Charlton, that they were beating, those police officers would have got serious time in jail.
Yeah. And
ask Michael Vick.
Yeah, that's true. And I gotta get your thoughts on something too, because we talked about it just after this had happened. I believe we did it on Tuesday's show. When we have young African Americans, if anything happens outside, like a police shooting, etc., then people want to march, etc., and it's egregious, and people should be up in arms about it. At least make sure that justice is ferreted out properly. But I also want to applaud many of our African American brethren that oftentimes we don't want to just assume that people know about their background. I look at the great Magic Johnson. This man has put himself out there as an athlete, All-American athlete, national championship basketball player at Michigan State back in the day. Gone on to the Lakers, 5 NBA championships, been a league MVP, has 5 rings. He's been a coach, he's been a commentator, he's been part owner of the Lakers, also of the Dodgers. He is an owner of many Starbucks, movie theaters. Just like Nipsey Hussle, Magic Johnson, he's always done something for the community. But even though he's done that, I don't think everybody knows that, Big C. Why is that so important that he, just like a lot of other players, they don't just shut up and dribble. They put their money where their mouth is. Your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, this is nothing that the media really wants you to know about, his investment of a wealthy black individual back into the black community.
Yeah.
There's limited notoriety in that. Now, if he was investing in Brentwood or Orange County, Charlton, it would be all over the place. But by him investing in inner city, Charlton, not only investing, but creating opportunity and livelihood for those people that live in those areas, Charlton, they now can earn an honest income. That they don't have to be afraid about going in and applying for work. Magic Johnson has created many opportunities for those people, Charlton. And when you look at Nipsey Hussle, he was following the model of a Magic Johnson, of a Jay-Z, of a Denzel Washington, Charlton, who's gone in and invested in these areas. And when we look at today's modern athlete, Charlton, they understand that there is an opportunity for growth financially when they invest in these areas that others will not, Charlton. Because these people just want an opportunity to feel normal also, like every American. Who has the ability to walk into a grocery store, a clothing store, Charlton, or even a car lot, and have an opportunity to purchase what you want. Because somebody will give you that opportunity. And that's so many minority entrepreneurs, Charlton, have had to be the ones to do that. Because white investors think that black money is not green all the time.
And I love that because it takes people. If you can, it's a sad dog that won't wag his own tail. I look at what Magic has done, and I see images of that in all facets of society. But the well-known people, oftentimes society or mainstream will say, well, they're just athletes, and when their playing days are over, they just go out and do whatever they want to do without helping other people. Now, I know when I look at a guy like Denzel Washington, I know Denzel has given many commencement speeches, and I'll never forget some of the things I've heard him say about living your life and how he was offered I think it was $600,000 for a role in a movie to play a character he didn't want to play. And, of course, you can play any stream you want to, but he turned it down. And he ended up getting a lot more money than that because he did it on principle. Now, there's a lot of people who want to get into acting, like the great Denzel Washington, who's one of the best actors of our generation. And he's also a big sports guy. So when you look at guys like Nipsey Hussle, you look at guys like Magic Johnson, they're not rappers. Nipsey was, but he's also entrepreneurial. So if an actor like Denzel can be touched by a guy like Nipsey Hussle in a different industry, why is that when mainstream says these industries don't cross? They do cross, Big C. How is Denzel affected by something like what Nipsey Hussle was doing? Your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, he was affected because he was an individual who cared. They both cared, Charlton, about where they had come from.
Yeah.
And Denzel has an athletic background. Matter of fact, his son played for a couple of years with the Rams as a running back.
Yeah.
So he's been affiliated all the way across the board. You think about Denzel's portrayal in movies, in The Coach, where he played Herman Boone.
Yeah,
remember the Titans, where he played Hurricane Carter, a boxer, Charlton. So he knows what athletes go through. He knows that lifestyle that they've had to live, Charlton. And, being a regular at the Lakers games, he has an affiliation and an affinity with so many of these people.
Yeah.
But to see this athlete, Charlton, and entertainers together and have the same liking in life, Charlton.
Yeah.
To try to help people. That's where it is. They're not always, Charlton, looking for the media to come in and see what they're doing. And that's the greatest thing about black athletes, Charlton, is that they try to avoid the media when they're out doing the things that they want to do from their heart.
Yeah.
And so many of these athletes do this, Charlton. The media is only looking for the negative plight of an athlete.
Yeah.
When somebody's been arrested for assault, marijuana, speeding, whatever, Charlton.
Yeah.
That's what the media loves, because they want to tell you that I told you so, that this is the type of people that they were.
Yeah.
They don't want to go out and say, look, this athlete is donating tens of thousands of dollars a month to help impoverished people.
Yeah.
White media does not want to have that portrayal of black athletes, Charlton.
No.
But yet hundreds of them do it, Charlton.
Yeah.
Every month.
Yeah.
Go out and do this. But, this is not the portrayal that we want to hear from the white media. They're not going to portray that image. They're going to always let you know when an athlete has gotten in trouble with law enforcement or something along that line. They're not going to constantly go out and tell you, these are good-hearted people.
Yeah.
This is the kind of person that we want to see every day in the media spotlight.
Well, I want to just pass on a personal story. There are times when you're trying something and you're doing something and you're people of color, you could do 99 things good, and people want to point out one thing. Hey, you need better sound quality. Hey, you need better speaker, whatever. You're on a program that reaches all over the world, and some people from mainstream, they'll come up and try to say, hey, man, I'm proud of you. Good job. How do you do that? Some people will say, you know what? You could have the volume high. You could have this high. You could have that negative. And I say, don't listen to those people. Believe in yourself no matter what you're doing. I've known preachers that had a small church, maybe had 9 rows of pews, but they preached fire and brimstone, and they affected the lives of people that listened to them. Many of them are African-American preachers. You can go to some great churches that have cathedrals that can sit 1,000 people, and you fall asleep because a man's not connected to your spirit. So whether it's Big C Sports or anybody else, you can't always worry about people wanting to criticize you. And one thing that I wanted to bring up about Nipsey Hussle, I've heard some of my mainstream friends saying, but he was part of the Blood and the Crip back in the day. Well, America was built on a lot of things that was built on negativity. Slavery was more horrific than Bloods and Crips, but people came out of it anyway, and we still have equality. I want to get a thought on a gentleman that's still playing basketball today, Dwayne Wade. And I remember a few years ago when Dwayne Wade came out on the stage in L.A., and they had the Black Lives Matter symbol. It was Dwayne Wade, LeBron James, I think Chris Bosh, and it could have been Chris Paul too, but there was several individuals, and it got such backlash. So give me your thoughts on what Dwayne Wade, he's not just a basketball player. He cares about some of the things that Nipsey Hussle cared about, and I hope that he makes the NBA playoffs with the Miami Heat this year. Your thoughts, Big C?
Well, Charlton, when you think about Dwayne Wade, and he was affiliated with Nipsey Hussle also, is that, when you think about the genuineness of the African-American athlete out there, Charlton, white media just wants to see them dribble and shoot, especially from the basketball range.
Laura Ingraham.
They don't want them to have a political or a social affiliation, a la Colin Kaepernick, Charlton. And as we look at what goes on in society, Colin Kaepernick has created an image, Charlton, that just won't go away.
Yeah.
When we talk about social awareness and social equality, Charlton,
Yep.
reforming the criminal justice system.
Yeah.
Dwayne Wade stood up on stage at the EPSIs, Charlton, along with Carmelo Anthony, LeBron James,
Yes.
you know, and said, you know, this is where we are as America, a country of inequality,
Yeah.
of social inequality, of justice inequality, Charlton.
Yeah.
And until America can address that issue, right now, you know, America wants to say, well, it's a brown menace. Black people are part of that brown menace also, Charlton.
Yeah.
Because someone of dark complexion, Charlton, you're trying to consider them not American.
Right.
That they should not have equal rights. And it's always been that way in this country, Charlton.
Yep.
But when you think about slavery, the reason slavery grew so fast, Charlton, because you could take somebody that was dark complected
Yeah.
and you could identify them.
Yeah.
The original form of slavery in America, Charlton, was indentured service.
Yeah.
White people. They could run away and go to another town and no one would know who they were.
Yeah.
But if it was a slave, regardless of where he was a slave, Charlton.
Yeah.
So America's always felt an infinity to have inequality towards dark people. Dwayne Wade fought against that, as well as many other black athletes have fought against that, Charlton.
Yeah.
And even from a societal perspective, we still have that today.
Yeah.
You know, one of the most racist statements that can ever be made to a person, oh, I have a black friend.
Yeah.
I have a couple of black friends.
Yeah.
Does any white person say, I have a white friend or I have a couple of white friends, something? That is a form of racism when you make that statement.
Yeah. And many of them in our society, it takes everybody to bring our society together, black and white. But many times, white Americans, they don't hear their own criticisms. And oftentimes, there are times, me as an African American, I'm the only black person that white people know in that group. And I've known it. That's the case. So many times people don't want to go outside of their own skin color, but we do it all the time. There's a couple more people I want to bring up because we said a statement the other day. This situation that happened in Northern California, Stephon Clark, whether it's, you know, pastors that come around from local communities, or Reverend Sharpton, or sometimes, you know, Jesse Jackson will fly in and have a speech. Now, the only reason we know about it is because the media covers it. They don't cover it when Steph Curry met with President Obama in Oakland. Just I think it was last month, and they had a forum on how they could bring people together, communities together, and create jobs and opportunities. That was not covered on TV the way you would think it would be. But if Al Sharpton comes in and has a speech, that's on for almost a week or at least 2 or 3 days. So Steph Curry and his activism, not just in Oakland, but wherever he's been in Carolinas, you don't see it though. Just like we don't see a lot when it's Dwayne Wade or Denzel Washington.
But Charlton, I think about the Long kids when Charlottesville happened, you know, a year and a half ago, Charlton, when the young lady was murdered by a white supremacist with his car.
Yeah.
And the president said those white supremacists, neo-Nazis were good people, Charlton.
Yeah.
You know, the Long kids, you know, Howie Long's son.
Yeah.
Stood up. But the media didn't want to hear that.
No.
Here was a white professional athlete speaking against white supremacy and neo-Nazis in America.
Yeah.
They didn't give them the platform. We didn't hear about that for days, Charlton. That was something that the media didn't want to carry.
The blink of an eye.
Because they wanted to protect the president in saying that, well, these were good people.
Yeah.
But Chris Long and his brother, Charlton, said, no, we don't stand for that. We grew up here.
Yeah.
This is not society that we know or accept.
Yeah.
But the media didn't want to hear that, Charlton.
Well, I appreciate the Long family and a litany of good people, black and white, that have always done the right thing. But oftentimes when you're a young black man, it's not shown, and I hope that we can change that. I love what Steph Curry did with President Obama. But the fact that it was barely covered was a shame. When you want to reach out to people and say, how can we change? President Trump will never sit down with black American athletes in Oakland and talk about how he can create, you know, opportunities and jobs and business loans for people who are trying to start a business. Just one more athlete, actually 2 more I want to touch on because Nipsey Hussle meant so much to a lot of people and what he was doing behind the scenes. I know a lot of people know about Jay-Z and Beyonce and how they're really this generation's, I would say, Michael Jackson and Diana Ross, that type of stature in the community, not just black community, but in the music community. How Jay-Z is an entrepreneur. He and Beyonce become billionaires. He wasn't born with a silver spoon in his mouth, but he's done a lot to create a music industry Whether people like his music or not, it doesn't matter. He's created a lot of jobs for people that maybe could not have ever gotten an opportunity in mainstream. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, he was one of those affiliated with Nipsey Hussle also.
Yeah.
But as you look how Rockefeller Industries, Charlton, has grown, he's also part owner, Charlton, of the New Jersey Nets.
The Nets, yeah.
Here's a man who has gone out, Charlton, and invested in everything that you could, from the entertainment industry to the sports industry, Charlton. But through his investments, Charlton, has created opportunities and employment for minorities, also mainstream.
Yeah.
You know, here's a guy who hasn't said, okay, I've made it. I'm turning my back on everybody else, Charlton.
Right.
He is bringing as many people along as he can in society. He's helped youth sports, Charlton, all over this country, Charlton, in investing in the things that they need as far as equipment and paying insurance for kids, Charlton, to be able to participate. But he's not going out there saying, hey, you know, here I am, JC, make the country aware of that I'm a do-gooder, Charlton.
Right.
He does it through genuineism, Charlton.
Yeah.
You know, he's not one of these mothers and fathers that we see now, Charlton, spending $500,000 to cheat to get their children into college, Charlton. He'll take that money and invest it where these kids can learn and have the opportunity to get into college legally, Charlton.
Yeah.
He also sets up a scholarship foundation, Charlton, where he pays for college.
Yeah.
He's not paying for cheating scandals.
Right.
And that's the thing that society needs to look at, is that athletes have set up foundations. Black entertainers have set up foundations, Charlton, to help minority children get into college. They haven't been like the affluent white part of society who have gone out and cheated and committed fraud on tests to get their kids into college, Charlton. Lied on interest forms.
Yep.
You know, if black athletes and black entertainers are doing what white society has done, Charlton, for years, think about how they would be treated in the justice system, Charlton. I think every one of these white parents, Charlton, who's paid all these egregious amounts of money to sneak their kids into school illegally, they all should do jail time, Charlton. No community service. Because this is the reason why affirmative action was set up.
Yeah.
Affirmative action was set up to give people an opportunity.
Yeah.
Just like minority athletes and entertainers, Charlton, set up foundations to give people opportunities also to help them pay for those colleges that they could get into that they could not afford, Charlton.
Yeah, very true, Seth. And last thing I want to get on, because we talked about how sports and politics and entertainment is all one brotherhood. And many times people say we can't talk about some entertainer. We just got to talk about who won a game. That's a lot of mainstream, but a lot of them are changing because they're following a new image that's out there. And I know we're part of creating that image. I want to just say, with LeBron James was told to shut up and dribble by Laura Ingraham, and mainstream applauded that because she's still working and she has that same type of vitriol that she's always had toward people of color. I saw her interview the president just the other day. But that same person told LeBron James, shut up and dribble. And here's a man that spent $41 million on helping kids get into college, has numerous foundations, and a man that's never had any trouble. And now he's also showing his thoughts and how much Nipsey Hussle meant to him. So I don't know the whole relationship with everybody involved. But I do know that a lot of young black men who don't get the chance to get a coaching position after they create $1 billion industry of NCAA football and basketball. $1 billion. I think there's less than 12 African-American college football coaches, Division I, but it's $1 billion business. And about 80% of the kids are African-American. But mainstream says, we won't give you a job after you finish playing, boy, but we'll give you a ring and some tennis shoes. Just one more thoughts on why LeBron James is so much more than an athlete. And people are saying, well, he should play out the regular season with the Lakers. They're not going anywhere. He's more than just that, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, I look at mainstream media and how upset they are with LeBron James this season. Talking about the Lakers season is a failure, and LeBron James is the reason for that.
Yeah.
Because LeBron James has his mind on things outside of the basketball court. Yes, he does, Charlton. LeBron James wants to follow in the footsteps of a Michael Jordan, of a Magic Johnson.
Yeah.
In reality, life is reality. Sports is a fantasy.
Yeah, it is.
And when those sporting days are over, Charlton, what did Michael Jordan go on and do, Charlton? He went on to become a mogul, Charlton.
Yeah.
He went on to become a minority owner of an NBA franchise, Charlton.
Yeah.
He didn't make that kind of money as a player, Charlton, to allow him to afford to be a co-owner, Charlton, of an NBA franchise.
Yeah.
He did that through his outside entities, Charlton, that he started while he was a player and continued on and exceeded in, Charlton, once he retired from the game.
Yeah.
Magic Johnson has done the same thing. We talked about Magic Johnson at the start of the show.
Yeah.
About how he's invested and took the chance, Charlton, of going within the inner city where the money was green also, Charlton.
Yep.
And he became co-owner of the Lakers as well as the Los Angeles Dodgers.
Yeah.
This is what LeBron James' aspirations are, Charlton.
Yeah.
He is getting ready to start his second All-Star season in Los Angeles as soon as his first season is over with the NBA. That All-Star season, Charlton, is a part of life.
Yeah.
Where he goes out and perpetuates what he's going to be doing 15 years from now. LeBron is not concerned about this year or next year. He's concerned where he's going to be 15 years from now, Charlton. When he turns 50 years old, he wants to be in the same position as Michael Jordan is in and Magic Johnson is, Charlton.
Yeah.
He wants to have ownership of a professional organization, Charlton. You're not going to become a billionaire by being a basketball player only, Charlton. It is a catapulting to the next level. And that's what the media is so down on LeBron about, Charlton, is that he is a businessman. He has everything, Charlton, that a basketball player could ever want.
Yeah.
He has multiple MVPs. He has multiple championships, Charlton.
Yeah.
What more can a basketball player or a professional athlete want, Charlton? He's accomplished that. But he wants to be more of a success off the court, Charlton, than what he was on the court. And white media has a problem with that because they have a feeling that he may be a part owner of something that they're doing someday, Charlton.
Yeah.
And have control over whether they work or not.
Well, I just appreciate the fact that everybody starts someplace. And don't listen to people that don't believe in you, because they'll be the same ones saying, I always believed in you when it starts. Just like the progress we're having with our own program, everybody starts someplace. Just keep doing it. And I applaud all the entertainers that are a part of giving back to our community. And I hope that we're doing it in our own way. You can't be everything to everybody. But there's not a lot of programs in this country that have two African Americans that are hosting a program that's heard all over the world on the biggest network in the United States of America. And so with that, it's nothing that anyone gave to us. We had to keep applying ourselves and putting our information out there, and then it gets picked up. So no matter what people say on the outside, they can't do anything for you but criticize. Let them criticize. But you got to keep believing in yourself and going forward. Speaking of that, I want to say sports is a billion-dollar industry, and boys and girls sports is the foundation to this billion-dollar industry. For every athletic and sporting event, you need athletic and event insurance. We work with Ben and Mark. They've been around half a century. They work with Big C Sports. Whether you're a pro team, a collegiate team, a high school team, or your mom and pop soccer league, when you reach out to them, let them know that Big C sent you. When I look at what happened with the Nipsey Hussle and a lot of athletes that we talked about, and I really, really appreciate those young men, because what they do off the courts, you won't see cameras. You just won't outside of maybe a small story that's done by a news program. Your thoughts on what Russell Westbrook did last night? I mean, the man, I want to know what he's eating, Big C. Whatever he eats or how he exercises. Who was that big guy? Was it Frank Thomas, the baseball player that's always taking some type of substance to make him bigger, stronger, and faster? I just want what Russell Westbrook eats. 20 points, 20 rebounds, 21 assists, and a 119-103 win over the Lakers last night. He should make a fitness commercial. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, every time you talk about a feat of a professional basketball player this year, whether it's James Harden or Russell Westbrook, you got to bring up the late, great Wilt Chamberlain, Charlton.
Yeah.
Wilt Chamberlain needs to have a category all by himself in the record books.
Yeah.
And we know there's one of them that nobody will touch.
But chicken wings.
When you think about what Westbrook did last night, Charlton, only Wilt Chamberlain had done that before.
Yeah.
And Wilt had done it on multiple occasions, Charlton,
to
have 20 points, 20 rebounds, and 20 assists. Wilt wrote the book on that. Just like Oscar Robertson wrote the book on triple-doubles, Wilt Chamberlain wrote the book on triple-doubles before Oscar Robertson did, Charlton.
Yeah.
So you think about West, and he was honoring the late Nipsey Hussle also, Charlton,
Yeah.
and what he had accomplished last night. He dedicated that to him, Charlton. But to go out, Charlton, and to be so unselfish as a player, the 20 rebounds and 20 assists, Charlton, that's just a phenomenal thing within itself.
Yeah.
But to back it up with 20 points, Charlton, in this era of just me being a selfish basketball player,
Yeah.
and how the media wants to glorify certain players and ostracize others, when you look at what Russell has done, Charlton, over the last 3 years in the NBA, to make the triple-double the norm, Charlton, this
Yeah.
could be the third consecutive season where he's averaged a triple-double, for the season.
Yep.
He's not even in the MVP talks. That's the biggest, shame, Charlton, from the media.
Yeah.
The MVP has become more of a popularity
How
contest,
many
Charlton.
points somebody scored?
Not even about how many points. It's about who the media likes.
Yes.
The MVP, regardless of the sport, Charlton, should be voted on by the players. I've always thought that the players should control at least 60% of the votes, Charlton,
Yeah.
when it comes to any MVP race. NFL, NBA, Major League Baseball, NHL, Charlton. Because the players are the ones who have to go out and compete every game against these opponents, Charlton.
Yep.
And they have a professional and mutual respect for each other. Where the media is like, if I'm not getting an interview, I'm not voting for you.
Yep.
If I don't like you, I'm not voting for you. Think about Barry Bonds. They won't vote him into the Hall of Fame because they said he treated the media rude.
Right. Yeah.
Roger Clemens, the same way.
Yeah.
He would not give us the answers that he wanted. Kawhi Leonard. Nobody would ever vote for Kawhi because he doesn't give interviews.
Too quiet. Yeah. Too
But
quiet.
ask the players who play against these guys, Charlton, what do they mean to the game?
Yeah.
And per man, everybody in the NBA is in love with Russell Westbrook. And what he did last night, Charlton, was just a magical moment.
It was a magical moment. Also a magical moment of another player who's not well loved at times, maybe because of how he behaved in Sacramento, wanting to win and finding an organization that maybe did not want someone that had a dominant personality. They wanted some passive guys. Like they always look for the European player that's not as aggressive as some of the players that are American-born. DeMarcus Cousins dominated last night against Denver, 28 points, 13 rebounds. The Warriors dominated the Nuggets, 116-102. It was Cousins. It wasn't Curry. It wasn't Durant. It wasn't, Thompson. It wasn't Draymond Green. But Durant was ejected last night after 2 technical fouls. That's a total of 15 for the season for him. But give me your feeling of DeMarcus Cousins. He still doesn't have his legs under him the way someone would had he started the regular season. But he started, this just right after the All-Star break. But he's showing everybody what he can be, whether they like him or not. He's still dominant. Your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, when you look at Cousins' situation with the Warriors, Charlton, this is a player that is blended into a team, Charlton, that was a breakneck pace team, Charlton. Everybody thought they would just run and Cousins wouldn't be able to keep up.
Yeah.
But they've allowed him to get into the offense, Charlton. They made him an integral part of it. They've incorporated him in every aspect.
Yeah.
He can move up and down the court, Charlton, as well as any big man in the game.
Yeah.
He has that inside-outside game. And he showed it on multiple occasions this year, Charlton, where he has led the Warriors in scoring in games.
Yeah.
And even without Kevin Durant last night, Charlton, after he had been injected, Cousins was still able to take over the game. And he didn't have to sit there and get the okay from Curry, from Thompson, from Green, Charlton, or even Durant while he was in the game.
Yeah.
Any one of the Warriors, Charlton, which is what makes them so dangerous, and this is becoming their time of the year, Charlton, where everybody fears them. They played Denver, Charlton, and this game was for first place in the West.
Yeah.
There are 5 games remaining in the West, Charlton. Right now, the Warriors have a 2-game lead over the Nuggets.
Yeah.
The Nuggets would have to win 3 more games in those 5 than what the Warriors win, Charlton, to take over first place in the West.
Let me get
so what the Warriors did last night, Charlton, was serve notice to the rest of the West. We're ready to play basketball.
Let me get your feeling on Denver. Now, I've been saying that I didn't think Denver had the moxie and that attitude that you see a lot of young players have. Whether you watch Boogie Cousins or you see Durant, they have an attitude about them. And Steph Curry has it too, but he's more smooth about his. But Denver, And I know people like to say they want someone to challenge Golden State. It's still going to come down to Golden State and Houston in the West. That's my opinion. Unless OKC can upset somebody, but I'm still looking at Golden State and Houston. Those are the biggest lions. They have the more personality and the dominant players. Your thought on Denver? I don't even think they're a 2 seed. I think they're more like a 3 seed, Big C, maybe even 4, but 3 seed. I don't think they're better than Houston. They're definitely not better than Golden State. Your thoughts?
Well, they started off the season real hot, and when you look at Houston, they had a sluggish start to the season, Charlton.
Yeah.
They couldn't win a game the first, 2 weeks of the season.
Yeah.
But they caught their stride. They had some injuries mid-season, Charlton, but they have everybody back healthy. They're in third place right now in the West, Charlton.
Yeah.
When you look at the Nuggets, Charlton, the Warriors have been their Achilles heel all year long.
Yeah, they have.
So this is a team, Charlton, that is getting good at the right time. Kevin Durant intentionally wanted to be kicked out of the game last night, Charlton.
Why do you think that?
I think he wanted to defer to his teammates.
Really?
That you guys can go out there and carry the mantra without me.
Right.
And what he did when he left the game, Boogie Cousins took the game over, Charlton.
Yeah.
And so it shows the strong suit of the Warriors. That who do you defend, Charlton?
You can't.
You got to send 5 defensive players out there against the Warriors every game, Charlton. What is the weakest link of that team? And Draymond Green is the weakest link of their offense.
Yeah.
But he's also probably the strongest link of their
defense.
Charlton.
Yeah.
Because not only is he going to get the rebounds, he's going to give off the assists, Charlton.
Yep.
So he's that emotional burst that they need. This team, Charlton, right now with the Warriors, even though they've had some horrendous losses at home this season,
yeah,
I feel they're better than the team that went to the playoffs and won it all last year.
Well, they definitely have that cohesiveness that they need to have going to the playoffs. I want to get your thoughts on NBA Rookie of the Year coming down between 2 number 1 draft picks that were traded on draft day. If you recall, Luka Doncic out of Dallas averaged 21 points, 7 rebounds, and 6 assists per game. But the guy that I like is Trae Young out of Atlanta, 19 points per game, 3 rebounds, and then 8 assists per game. I like him more because he's a smaller player, and he can get into the paint also, and he doesn't have the size as someone that may be a bigger, heavier player that can take the banging. But again, it comes down to people can choose who they want to choose. But I still like Trae Young. Your thoughts?
Trae Young has come on very effective the last 6 weeks of the season, Charlton, where he's gone out and he's got an Eastern Player of the Month, Charlton. He's been Player of the Week on several occasions. He's really grown up as the season's gone along. When you think about Luka Doncic, Charlton, in Dallas, and these two players were traded for each other on draft night, he started off the season, Charlton, with a bang. He was professional basketball already, having played professional basketball for 5 years already over in Europe prior to crossing over here to the NBA.
Yeah.
So his game was more suited out the block for the NBA. Trae Young had to learn the physicality of the game, Charlton, because he was just a shooter when he was in college.
Yep.
But when you think about what he's done really the last month of the season, Charlton, he's averaged a double-double the last month of the season, which has really helped the Hawks out.
Yeah.
Charlton, they've had a much better season than what anybody had expected. And, they also will receive Dallas's first overall draft pick, Charlton, in this next draft.
Well, when you think about it, they're going to need it. Atlanta Hawks, they're 28-50 on the season. And you look at Dallas, they're 31-46. They're both teams that can build up a program. But I still like Atlanta because they just, that young talent they have, I think they can really knock some people off next year. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, just think about if the draft balls go their way, Charlton, if they ended up, with someone like a Zion Williamson that everybody has picked for New York.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you're going to waste the ping pong balls and no longer use the envelope, Charlton. But, just think about it. If he was to end up in Atlanta, Charlton, you got Trae Young, you got John Collins. You got 2 cornerstones already for a young team, Charlton, and you bring that electricity into that city, Charlton. Who knows where the NBA would go after that?
Well, I think the NBA is just a fantastic league, and obviously they're doing a lot right. They're building up the young players, and everybody loves it. This time of year, it feels like we're already in the playoffs. I want to get tonight's schedule. There's a lot of games, Big C, on match. Indiana at Detroit. Obviously, Indiana still playing for one of the top spots in the East. New York at Orlando, Chicago at Washington, Philadelphia at Atlanta. We were just talking about Atlanta. That's a team that can knock people off. if they don't have their game on tight. But I want to get the biggest game, in my opinion, in the Eastern Conference tonight. You look at Toronto coming from Canada at Brooklyn. Now, Toronto, I would love to see them in an NBA Finals. I just don't think it's going to happen because of the TV revenue and all that jazz, and Americans, bias of more having their own teams in. But give me your thoughts on Toronto at Brooklyn. Brooklyn really has to play well to keep their spot in the playoffs. Big C, your thoughts?
They slipped a little bit over the last couple of weeks, Charlton, where they had the sixth position locked down. Now they're fighting to the eighth position. They can't afford another loss, Charlton, this deep into the season. But the Toronto Raptors are just a one solid team, Charlton.
Yeah.
They're probably going to have the NBA Sixth Man of the Year there in Toronto, Charlton, or the Comeback Player of the Year. But, Brooklyn, I mean, with Young, who's, refurbished his career there, this is a team that's hungry. They're young, Charlton. I would love to see them in the playoffs. I'd love to see Toronto in the Eastern Finals.
Yeah, I would love that too.
This is just a great game for the NBA tonight.
Yeah, it really involved two countries as opposed to just one country with the United States. Boston at Miami. We know Miami's hovering right around that 8th, 9th spot. But love to see them get in just because Dwayne Wade, I know people say don't be biased in media, but I like to have, at least if he had the opportunity to go out as a playoff player as opposed to just ending the regular season. In Boston, there's you don't know how to bet with Boston. They have arguably the next coach that's going to be the Red Auerbach, but I don't see that yet. And Miami needs this win more than Boston needs it. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, they do, Charlton. They're trying to get Wade one more run at the playoffs, Charlton. But Boston, they can't let down in a game like this, Charlton. When you're playing a lesser opponent and you're trying to secure your seat in the East, this is the games you got to have. It would be nice to see Wade in, Charlton.
Yeah.
But they won't challenge for the Eastern title.
No, they're not going to challenge at all. Charlotte at New Orleans. Minnesota's at Dallas. Now, the biggest game, I won't say the biggest, but maybe the second biggest in the Western Conference, you have San Antonio at Denver. Denver just got smoked in California, Golden State Warriors. San Antonio fell to the Sacramento Kings, another California team. Now San Antonio's traveling to Denver. Now, both are going to be playoff teams. If San Antonio knocks off Denver, that's a big blow to their confidence going into the playoffs. But in order to get it back, they got to beat a team that couldn't even beat the Kings. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, they can't afford to have back-to-back losses going into the playoffs, and that's the Denver Nuggets, Charlton. To lose last night against Golden State, and Golden State didn't have a pad hand last night, Charlton. They played with a diminished lineup.
Yeah.
And San Antonio coming off that tough loss in Sacramento that has been an up-and-down team, Charlton. And at one point, you thought they were going to make the playoffs, but San Antonio has catapulted past them. This is Popovich's time of the year, trying to make it 21 consecutive.
Yeah, he will definitely do that. You have Utah at Phoenix. Don't sleep on Phoenix, especially this team that's going nowhere. But they have some young players that like to beat teams that are going to the playoffs. So Utah has to keep their eyes open on that. Memphis at Portland. Portland should get that win. Another big game, the biggest game in L.A., is Houston at the L.A. Clippers. Doc Rivers, I'm going to just crown Doc Rivers as Coach of the Year because he wasn't supposed to be there, especially trading away all their players. But he's done a great job coaching. And if you think about Houston, Harden can't stop him. But I wouldn't be surprised if the Clippers got him tonight, Big C. Chris Paul going back to where he left, maybe have some emotional stuff going on there. Give me your feeling about the game in LA tonight with Houston going into LA.
Well, there's no emotion left. Professional athletes, Charlton, when they leave, they leave. And that Clippers team that he played on, Charlton, doesn't exist anymore. It's gone. I mean, it's been disbanded. And Doc Rivers has put together a new cast of characters down there that has made the playoffs again.
Yeah.
A marvelous job of coaching on his behalf. Houston has gotten healthy.
Yeah.
They're going to be a challenge in the West for whoever they have to face in the first and second round, Charlton.
Yeah, that's obviously basketball is great. Everybody loves it. And I just want to see a good game, especially down there in L.A. with the Lakers being out of it. You still have the Clippers that can bring a lot of people down to Staples Center and give them some hope. Big C, I want to just go outside of basketball for a minute and look at what Major League Baseball is doing. Someone finally beat the Phillies, and it was a walk-off home run by the Nationals. And Harper got all that money, and he struggled. And then anything he does, they want to give him a lot of credit. So I do want to say he's done a good job after slumping. He slumped last year, and he was slumping even after he got the $300+ million. But what was it, $330 million, I believe. But Harper had a triumphant return against Washington last night, going 3 for 5, 458 home run. That's not a big deal. I still want to see his batting average. That's more important than if he hits a home run and they go, see, he's worth $330 million. A lot of guys that hit home runs 458 feet. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, last night with a triumphant return to D.C., I mean, it was one of those feel-good stories for Bryce Harper. You know, he goes 3 for 5 last night, Charlton. He was one hit short of the cycle. He didn't get the triple last night, Charlton.
Yeah.
But to return back to your old stomping ground, Charlton, and to go 3 for 5 and to catapult your team to a win, it's just a great night. I mean, he was met with a hail of bluebirds last night.
Yeah.
But by being a professional athlete, you go out there to play.
Yeah.
And Bryce Harper showed all those guys in D.C., all the fans, he enjoyed playing for them, Charlton, during his career.
Yeah.
But his career has moved along to Philadelphia. And they're going to see each other 18 times this year, Charlton. So the Bluebirds can't affect you as a professional athlete.
No.
But he walked out there last night, Charlton, and showed that, hey, I'm a force to be reckoned with.
Yeah, and he really is, Big C. Other games tonight in Major League Baseball: Baltimore, Toronto, the New York Mets at Miami, Chicago at Atlanta, St. Louis at Pittsburgh, Houston at Texas, Boston at Oakland, San Francisco at Los Angeles in that great rivalry. Also, we have Milwaukee at Cincinnati, Philadelphia at Washington, Chicago, the White Sox are at Cleveland, Colorado at Tampa, Minnesota at Kansas City, Arizona at San Diego, and Detroit at New York. Bobby Cox, former great manager for the Atlanta Braves, he's been hospitalized today. Not really known about why. I just want to give thoughts and prayers to his family. But he is someone that has meant as much to that Braves organization as any manager has meant to any organization all over the world of Major League Baseball. Big C, your thoughts on the great Bobby Cox?
Well, Charlton, he's the last manager to get Atlanta to the World Series and also win that World Series, Charlton. He has consecutive appearances back in the 90s. You know, he was a mainstay in that organization for about 12 years, Charlton. And, you know, all your thoughts and prayers go out to Bobby Cox and the Atlanta Braves organization.
Yeah, definitely want to wish him well. And just everybody's got to enjoy whatever you're doing in life. And obviously, when you think about the Braves, you definitely think about him. If we jump to the NFL and get your thoughts on something, since the NFL draft is supposed to mean so much to the top teams in Week 5, why have teams spent so much money on free agency thus far? And maybe the team that has spent too much money is the Oakland Raiders. Now, I want to get your feeling on something. The Raiders have gotten, Antonio Brown, come from disgruntled at Pittsburgh, coming out here to the West Coast. And supposedly, you're going to leave a Hall of Fame quarterback in Big Ben to a guy that may not be Hall of Fame in Derek Carr, but has a lot of potential. But there's still some thought that Carr has too much money coming to him that's going to make Gruden happy enough to keep him. And he may be shopped off. So why bring Antonio Brown in if you're looking to get a quarterback out of college to throw it to him? Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, not only you brought in Antonio Brown, you brought in two other wide receivers, Charlton, so that the Raiders feel that they're upgrading their receiving core, Charlton. That's not a receiving core that you want to have with a rookie quarterback, Charlton.
Right.
They still need to get a tight end. They lost the tight end to the Saints in free agency.
Yeah.
But, with having so many draft picks with the Warriors, and you got two geniuses in Mike Mayock and John Gruden
Yeah.
running the organization now, Charlton.
Yeah.
The most intelligent two people in football with one team.
Yeah.
You spend all this money in free agency. You go out and you overspend on a left offensive tackle who was only making $1 million last year in New England. And I'm all about players getting paid.
Yeah.
But you give him a $15 million pay raise to come to the Raiders.
Yeah.
Yeah. And he had just won a Super Bowl. So, when you look at all these teams, Charlton, with the free agent frenzy that they had, and everybody's looking 5 weeks out now for the NFL draft,
Yep.
and the hoopla about the young players coming out of college that are supposed to turn around an NFL franchise.
Yep.
Why do you even have the draft, Charlton, after the free agent frenzy?
Yep.
Or should the free agency, Charlton, be after the draft? Move the draft up a month. Have free agency start 2 weeks after the draft.
Yeah.
I think the NFL needs to turn that around so that let teams draft players first,
Yes.
then go out and spend all the money in free agency.
That makes a lot of sense, Big C, so that means it probably won't happen that way. Thinking of something that also, doesn't make a lot of sense. in the world of the MMA, and I know I love this sport. I've been following it for about a decade now, and Dana White made himself a billionaire by being smart enough to buy a franchise when it was not really well known, but even it was being fought all over the world, especially in Latin America. One of their namesakes. You look at Conor McGregor. I know announcing his retirement, but he lost his last 2 bouts. He was knocked out, but he is still at it. And I think about what he did with the theft down in last time he had a theft of someone's phone and broke that. Then he threw a trolley through a bus up in New York. And they keep wanting to pat this guy in the back because I see him making commercials about liquor on TV. Well, he's still at it again. He insults Khabib's wife and his religion, the religion of Khabib's wife, and some negative tweets. And that's a negative story for MMA. But I want to get your feeling on why, if all the negative things he's done, and Colin Kaepernick was trying to fight for social justice, and people hated him, said, get the Blake out of the country. Why do I see McGregor, out of his egregious behavior and his anti-religion behavior, why is he still making commercials for mainstream companies, Big C? Your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, what you just did is what they just did. You gave him credence. You gave him credibility by bringing him up. If he's not brought up, then he's not going to get that recognition. That's the best I could do with it.
Yeah. Well, it is something that should be brought up because we already have this anti-Muslim thing going on. We have this thing with anti-Hispanic or anti-Mexican going on. We know that Black Lives Matter. A lot of people don't like that. They want to point out something negative. But I still see there's no pushback over it other than they'll say he did it in a tweet. And I hope that we can just keep on top of that too. I want to mention something. And again, for all the athletes that are doing something positive, irrespective of what color you are, it's always great to acknowledge that. On this date in Black history, 1944, the Supreme Court in Smith versus Albright, they ruled that white primaries were unconstitutional, while decisions opened the doors for black participation in politics in the South for the first time since Reconstruction. We're still talking about how to vote now, whether there's more people right now running for the presidency of the United States that are women and people of color. But going back to 1944 was a seminal moment in the United States. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, when you think about that, and still with what we have to deal with today, Charlton, as minorities, where you think about voter obstruction, Charlton, that's going on, changing districts, changing voting rules all the time.
Yeah.
Those same rules that were changed in 1944, Charlton, whites are still trying to implement today.
Yeah.
Is that here it is that they're taking blacks off the voter polls, Charlton, that they've gotten on, and so all of this fight, Charlton, against blacks having voting rights that was given by the Supreme Court, Charlton, and also by Lyndon Baines Johnson, Charlton, the president.
Yeah.
White society still fights against blacks having the ability to vote.
Yeah. It's still happening. Well, ironically, we know sports and politics, it all mixes just like the entertainers we talked about earlier. It was breaking on CNN, top Democrats are demanding IRS releases of POTUS 6 years of tax returns, President Trump personal and business tax returns, and they want it within the next 7 days. Now, I think he said he would release them about 2 years ago after his audit was being done, or he was having some type of audit he was having done. That was completed already. So they're going after something, and I don't know if they're going to find anything, because the man seems to be Teflon. He gets away with everything. But I want to get your feeling on how we talked about many African Americans can't get business loans in business districts. And they've tried to do it, but banks have redlined, and everybody knows that. Even the Trump organization in renting houses, they have one of the biggest lawsuits against them in discrimination against not giving loans to people of color. So if they've lied about his income in order to get business loans, but other people go to jail for that, Big C, what do you think they're going to find in his returns? I don't know if they do. He'll probably get away with it anyway, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, there's nothing to find on the returns. You haven't filed them. You've gotten extensions. That's what you've done continuously.
Yeah.
And for him to have personal returns, Charlton, he'll say that they don't exist.
Yeah.
The businesses, he's changed the names of the corporations, so those are irrelevant, Charlton. Most of those corporations have been changed, Charlton, year after year to avoid taxes. So that corporation that you were going after is non-existent any longer.
Yeah.
And, as far as personal income, He'll have a small income tax return for that, Charlton. But the president has committed so much fraud in the past, Charlton, and said that he could not release his tax returns because he's under audit.
Yeah.
Well, if you're under audit, Charlton, they already belong to the government.
Yep.
So it's not up to you for releasing the tax returns. If any of these politicians, Charlton, really wanted someone's tax returns, all they have to go to is subpoena the IRS for them, Charlton.
Yep.
You don't have to subpoena the individual. You're right there in Washington. You're right there in the hub of the income tax return maker, Charlton.
Yeah, well,
so all you got to do is subpoena the IRS to get the income tax returns. You don't have to go to Trump.
Well, the House and Ways and Means Committee Chairman Richard Neal, he's looking for that to happen, and it's supposed to happen in the next 7 days. No matter what, I hope that everybody can just enjoy this beautiful world that sports brings to a lot of people, especially our growing influence in Latin America with the Grande Deportes for Big C Sports Latin America and our Spanish-speaking fans. Big C, I want to say back in the day, there was a man by the name of Drew Boudini Brown. He was known as Muhammad Ali's right-hand man. He would always tell Ali, with all you got to use, how can you lose? Rumble, young men rumble. Big C, what are you looking forward to in the sports universe?
Charlton, what I'm looking forward to in the sports universe is that I'm a couple of days away from the weekend. I'm going to have a plethora of basketball, Charlton. I got the ladies' championship. I got the men's championship in the Final Four, Charlton. It's going to be an exciting weekend. But the way that baseball is playing right now, Charlton, it's just fantastic, especially with Bryce Harper's return back to Washington last night.
Well, let's see how long it lasts, and we hope that everybody has a great time in the sports universe. Every Monday through Friday at 5 and 6 p.m. worldwide. Follow Big C Sports on the Big C Sports Network, on the #1 network in the United States of America. And Big C Sports has been voted the #1 sports show in the universe, according to Big C and them good old boys down south. As we always tell you, there's never, ever an excuse for domestic violence. If you know any man or woman going through that garbage, please call 911, because no man or woman should ever have to go through that garbage all on their own. And as we always tell you on every Big C Sports show, we thank you, we appreciate you, and we hope that you have a super fantastic day.